Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rahakwadash, and double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule well and push this word in truth and in sincerity. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect, pushing this word across the four corners of the earth into the sincere Akwathium that are listening and learning in silence in these last days. It's your brother Yadai for the DC Church, and Lord's will, this video will be edifying, short, comforting, and straight to the point. And the reason why I put so much emphasis on comforting, because that's what this topic's basically going to be about. Finding comfort in the scriptures. We're occupied on prophecies. We have to be paying attention to the news and things that's going on and around, but you also want to balance that out with understanding what you're doing is for and understanding the fact that, yeah, we're seeing all these things take place, but at the end of the day, the Lord has you as long as you uphold your integrity. Okay. Because one thing I was thinking about, I was looking at the daily affirmations, and you can tell that it's basically from the book of Sirach, but it's also said all throughout the scriptures. But when you think about all the trials and tribulations, um, and just the ones that we go through and even the ones to come, at first you're just wondering why. Then when you're called to do the will of the Lord, aka come into the ministry, come into the truth, you think back on your trials and even the one that you're going through now, and now you have an understanding, or at least somewhat of it. And you understand that everything happens to us is for us and it shapes us. So you got to take the good with the bad. And I picked three out of the affirmations that was written down, and had some precepts just to back up those things. And it just brings comfort to my spirit. To Lord's will, it brings comfort to whoever's listening as well. But one affirmation that I was reading, and I'm gonna start in the Sirach 2 and start right at the top. But it says, I accept discipline as refinement. I am being shaped, not rejected. So I want to start with Sirach 2 and start at the top, read down to 5. It says, my son, if thou come to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation. Set thy heart aright and constantly endure, and make not haste in the time of trouble. Cleave unto him and depart not away, that thou mayest be increased at thy last end. Whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully, and be patient when thou art changed to a low estate. For gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. So these verses show discipline as preparation and purification, and not being abandoned. Okay, so the Lord chastened those who he loves. Okay, so we're going to go through certain things, but what is it for? Again, it's to purify us, to shape us. Okay, it teaches us that choosing to serve the Lord brings trials, and that steadfastness under these trials are expected as a man of the Lord. And through that hardship, we as the faithful ones, are refined like fire refines gold. Okay. So again, discipline isn't rejection, it's more so the process that proves and strengthens what is being formed. And what is being formed in this sense? The Lord's elect. We're in these fleshly bodies. We're coming back into who we are, understanding who our power is in the name of Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, and we're following his way and understanding his will and trying to follow that to the best of our ability. And that is what's forming us. That is what's shaping us. Okay. Now the other one that I brought up was the other affirmation that I read was, I cling to what is right and refuse to depart from my integrity, even under pressure. So the first precept I had pulled up here was Job 27. Marie verses 5 and 6. It says, God forbid that I should justify you till I die. I will not remove mine integrity from me. My righteousness I hold fast and will not let it go. My heart shall not reproach me so long as I live. So when it comes down to integrity and this truth, that's a non-negotiable. You don't want to sacrifice your integrity for anything, or you're just selling out. A lot of people say, well, if you accept it for a certain amount of money, well, obviously there's a lot of things that you wouldn't do unless money's involved. Now, you have to contextualize certain things. That's not selling out. A lot of things you wouldn't do at your job unless they pay you. Now, is that selling out? No, that's just saying being paid what you're due. Okay. So let's make sure you understand what it means to sell out. You're sacrificing your integrity, you're sacrificing your morals, things that you usually wouldn't sacrifice because money's involved or fame is involved. Or they can pay you in many other ways. It doesn't have to be just money. You can be paid in many other things that you may seem that's valuable to you. Okay. But ultimately, integrity is a non-negotiable. You don't want to sacrifice that, especially if you consider yourself a man of the Lord. And understanding that righteousness needs to be upheld even when you feel like suffering is unjust. Okay. Because sometimes people feel like they've been wronged. So now they feel like they got to take things in their own hands. No, you got to remain calm. You got to still uphold your integrity and don't sacrifice that to try to get somebody back, try to get your lick back and things like that too. It doesn't work that way. And then also just have an understanding that, pressure tests your sincerity and it tests your commitment. It doesn't nullify it. It doesn't get rid of it. It's testing to see if you're true. All right. Now he says he's holding fast to his integrity. What that makes me think about is this right here, Revelation 3 and verse 11. Actually, I'm gonna start from 10 because this is the whole point that we want to be able to be covered by. We want to be able to resist the hour of temptation. We don't want to be able to receive that mark just because we feel like certain things that we're going to have to go through. So we got to pray every single day that we had the Spirit upon us to never be tempted to be able to take that mark. But Revelation 3, 10, and 11, it says, because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. The hour in temptation is the mark of the beast, the RFID microchip. And what this devil is going to do is take away everything that you depend on, and they're going to monopolize it. So now you feel like you have to depend on them in order to be able to be saved. And the only thing they're going to even attempt to quote unquote save you is if you receive their mark, you receive that chip. That's the way you can get your food, your water, your money, whatever it is that you feel like you need to be able to survive and live. But even if you do rely on this devil to give you these things after you receive that chip, it's you're just making a fool of yourself because you're still going to be played. You're still going to be deceived. All right. But verse 11 says, behold, I come quickly. That's the point I want to get. Hold fast which thou hast. Just like when you fasten the seatbelt, it's strapping you in. Okay. That's how we hold fast to our integrity. That's how we hold fast to this word. It says that no man take thy crown. I mean, that's what we're in it for. We're trying to receive the crown of life. And if you're not rooted and grounded, the world can take you away. Just the entanglements of the affairs of this life, the affairs of this world. You can be entangled in those things. That can take you away. Okay. So you want to hold fast to your integrity no matter what. And don't participate in things that's only going to cloud your judgment. And now all of a sudden you're making the wrong decisions. All right. Now I'm going to go to Psalm 26 and read verses 1 and 2. This is a Psalm of David. Judge me, O Lord, for I have walked in mine integrity. I have trusted also in the Lord. Therefore I shall not slide. Examine me, O Lord, and prove me. Try my reins and my heart. So your integrity, your Salakia, your integrity will flow from your trust and faith in Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. So to remain steady while you're under scrutiny, that's evident that you're aligned with the Lord. Okay. Not the absence of the trials that we go through, because we need these trials to prove our sincerity. Okay. That's the reason why when certain things happen, no, we don't invite the trouble, but we also don't make haste. We understand when the trouble comes, why we're going through it now. And, when we do go through certain things, when you don't panic and you have a still mindset, it just shows that you trust in a higher power that's bigger than your circumstances. Okay. So that's why we always run to the names of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, because that's a strong tower. That's our defense. That's our offense. That's our everything that's going to be able to get us through everything in this life. Okay. Part of being a man of the Lord is being a man. Okay. That's one of the first things I learned when it came to this truth. All right. And being a man, you have to have accountability. Therefore, know how to take constructive criticism. When you look at verse 2, it says, examine me, O Lord, and prove me. Try my reins and my heart. Okay. So right there, you're inviting to be able to take constructive criticism. But to criticize is to break down, to construct is to build back up. So you got to kill off the old man before you can build a new. Okay. So again, it's an invitation for examination. That's something we have to do by ourselves, but we're also asking the Lord, hey, examine me. Reveal these things within me that I need to change. Something that may not be right within my spirit. Maybe I got to purge out the old leaven. Maybe I got to purge out certain things that's not profitable to me. Okay. That's why in Proverbs 30 and 8 it says, feed me with food convenient for me, roughly paraphrasing. All right. But we invite examination because we know we're not perfect. We're not going to be defensive when we're being called out. It's not easy to be humble, but it's necessary and it's worth it. Okay. When you're living your life aligned with Yahweh Shai, Shai, scrutiny is only going to confirm your sincerity and your faith, not expose you. Okay. Because that's the reason why we have to be without spot, without blemish, and blameless. So also that leaves the ministry blameless as well. But no matter what you do behind the scenes or in the light, your integrity still remains the same. So that's why I want to bring out that point when I say scrutiny only confirmed your faith and your sincerity and this truth. Okay. A lot of people will be scared to be exposed, be scared to be out in the light because what they're doing in darkness is shameful. Okay. Now let me go to Proverbs 11, straight to the point in verse 3. It says, the integrity of the upright shall guide them, but the perverseness of transgressors shall destroy them. And that's straight to the point. Your integrity will be your guidance. Let that integrity be your guiding key. Let it guide you where you need to go. Okay. Let the spirit work its work within you. Your integrity will act as, I would say, your foundation, which will in the end be able to stabilize you. I couldn't get the word out, because when the world tries to knock you down and throw you off course, well, now you're stabilized because you have a solid foundation, and that's your integrity and Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. Okay. Which also is why it's important to surround yourself with like-minded individuals, because this is not a thing where you a lone wolf, you can do it by yourself. Nah, you have other people who may be better at certain things or maybe experience certain things that you haven't, and they can help you navigate. If you're going astray, they can get you right back on track. That's the whole point of rebuke. That's a form of love, because you want to see your brothers be able to be saved. You want to see your brother walk on a righteous path. If not, then you really don't love that person. you know that's why it's important to rebuke, to make sure we all on point. All right. Now I'm gonna go Daniel 6 and read verse 4. And if you understand the theme, the part that I'm getting here is no matter what circumstances are coming your way, your integrity remains the same. All right. Daniel 6 and 4 says, then the presidents and princes sought to find occasion against Daniel concerning the kingdom, which they still do to us today. They have to associate the ministry with certain things they can point blame on. All right. Because if you're just reading the scriptures from my Bible, you searching our backpacks, you ain't gonna find no carnal weapons. You ain't gonna find no knives, no guns. You ain't gonna find no weed in there, some joints that we trying to smoke or something. You ain't gonna find none of that. You might find some anointing oil. You might find some, extra garment, maybe some Bibles, things like that. What you gonna do? You gonna get mad at them? But it says, but they could find an occasion nor fault, just like the things I named. For as much as he was faithful, neither was there any error or fault found in him. And that's exactly what we have to be. Your integrity is put under a microscope when trouble comes. All right. Because now it's like, oh, dang, okay. We can try to get him to sacrifice his integrity by just putting him in this situation. Or he need money, or he need food, or he need this. If we just put him in dire straits, then yeah, he gonna go off. You see what I'm saying? We're all gonna have to face something. That's why it's called temptation. It's something that you feel like you want or you may need. But you have to have the spirit up on your Lord to be able to resist those things. So your faith is proved where compromise is safest, meaning your faith is proven when there is something to lose. That's why a lot of times when people feel like it's nothing personal coming to attack them, now they feel like it's nothing too bothersome. But now you're attacking their own livelihood, attacking their comfort. They got something to lose. Now you're about to see a different side. Well, our integrity remains the same. Yeah, we're going to lose certain things in this life, but we know we're going to get it back 100-fold in the next, in the kingdom. Okay? So we're not too worried about compromising. Our compromise, we don't compromise. We either going, it's Yahweh Bash Yahweh Shai to the day we die. Lord willing, the Lord keeps the spirit upon me to be able to uphold what I'm saying right now. All right? Because when compromise offers safety, relief, approval, escape, all these things that the world has to offer you, you're basically, it says, what? Safety, relief, approval, escape from consequences. Now you're choosing to uphold your integrity. It's a real. It comes at a real cost. Okay, because now you're sacrificing your safety. You're sacrificing the opportunity to feel some relief. You're sacrificing approval from people that maybe you wanted some approval from in the world. You're sacrificing your chance of escape. You know what I'm saying? To uphold your integrity, because it's in those moments where obedience isn't as convenient or rewarded, but it's more intentional. You're like, you know what? I know this could possibly happen, but you know what? I know what this could, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to uphold my integrity. I'm going to keep my mind fortified. That's why it says be strong and be courageous. You got to keep a soldier's mindset. Okay. So your faith is proven because the choice wasn't made, based on safety, but on what is right. So you know that you could possibly lose your life for choosing what's right in a world full of wickedness, but you still chose it anyway. That's what the Lord likes, you know? And the last one that I had was I remain steadfast and calm in adversity. I do not act in haste or confusion. So right back to Sirach 2 at the top, this shows your maturity, of your faith when you're under pressure. When adversity comes, it doesn't fracture you or rush you to react. It only reveals the stillness in you by having faith in the Lord. Okay. And the trust that you build by relying on these scriptures. Okay. It shows that you have faith in the Lord, that you trust in the word, you believe in it 100%. So it shows, calm endurance. What does that signify? Refinement, maturity, and strength that knows when not to move. Because every time there's a reaction, sometimes no reaction is a reaction. You don't always have to give your attention to every single thing. Okay. Because steadfastness, so I'm just jumbling my words today. But now steadfastness brings clarity, So when you have clarity in your mind, now you're not so clouded by emotions. Why? Because you're still. Okay. Let me get a couple precepts. I'm gonna close out. I'm gonna start off with Isaiah 30 and read verse 15, get straight to the point. And it says, "For thus saith the Lord God, the Holy One of Israel, and returning and rest shall ye be saved, and quietness and in confidence shall be your strength, and ye would not." So when quietness and trust is our strength is rooted in our restraint, which is basically self-control, temperance, and trust in the Lord, and then not being hasty to make decisions because we're in panic mode. Okay. Calmness in adversity reflects confidence in the Lord. And it shows that you believe 1 Corinthians 10 and 13 that he's always going to make a way of an escape for you, no matter the temptation that's to try you. Okay. Now I'm gonna go to James 1, read verses 2 through 4. It says, "My brethren, count it all joy when ye fall into diverse temptations, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience. But let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. So steadfast endurance produces completeness, and you'll lack nothing, meaning you have all that you need in terms of what's required for salvation. You're getting the milk, you get the scriptures, you got the brotherhood, you pray, you make sure you got the things that's going to help further you in the ministry. Okay. The Lord gives you what's needed for salvation. All right. He may toss you a bone and break your bone here and there, but most of all, he's going to give you what you need to be able to thrive in the ministry as long as the Lord is working with you. Okay. So it's at this form, it's survival. It's a form of maturity. Okay. Remaining calm allows the refining process to finish its work, instead of interrupting. You're not quenching the spirit. Okay. Let me go to Proverbs 19 and 2. It says, that the soul be without knowledge, it is not good. And he that hasteth with his feet sinneth. That's the point I want to get right there, the last part of it. Haste leads to error, while self-control and restraint reflects the wisdom that you uphold. Okay. It shows that you actually have understanding with all that getting. Okay. Because you're starting to apply these precepts in your life rather than just reading the words on the book. Now you're starting to see certain circumstances. You're like, you know what? I read this back in Proverbs. I read this back in Sirach. I read this in Ecclesiastes. Or I read this in Psalms. Here's how I'm going to apply it. Okay. But when you are hasty, it clouds your judgment and that increases your chance of making mistakes. So, refusing to rush under pressure is a sign of wisdom shaped by discipline. Okay. Now let me get one more in Psalms before I close out. Psalm 112 and read verse 7. It says, "He shall not be afraid of evil tidings. His heart is fixed, trusting in the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai." Okay, so the righteous are not shaken by the evil times to come, and the evil times that's happening right now. Because our hearts and our minds, because when you look at the word heart, it goes into the word mind, lab, and our hearts and our mind is firm and trusting in the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. So when you're unshaken and calm in the face of evil times, it shows that's a mind, that's a heart, that's a mindset anchored beyond our circumstances. Just like I mentioned earlier, there's nothing bigger than our power. There's nothing too big for our power to be able to handle. And he's always going to provide an escape. That's why I'm saying he's beyond our circumstances. Okay. But our trust in the Lord dictates how we react. Not the information that comes out or not even certain outcomes, because we already know based on prophecy how things are going to go. All we got to do is continue to watch, spread the news, continue to feed the elect, and stay prayed up, stay fasting, and repent. All right. But that's the last one I got right there, man. Hopefully, I wasn't all over the place and I was a little stammering lips over my words and everything like that, too. But Lord's willing, it was edifying and the message was received. Again, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachak Wadash, and double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule well and push this word in truth and sincerity. Till next one. Shalom.